welcome in. This is Mike from Prep Pros, and we're going to run through the calculator section of the May 2022 test here. This video helps you out. Please like and subscribe. If you guys have any content you'd like to see, drop it in the comments below. Question number 1 here. The function f is defined by f of x equals 9x minus 16. What is the value of f of 3? Well, here, very simply, we're just plugging in 3 for where x is. So we're going to get 9 times 3 is 27. 27 minus 16 is going to give us 11 here. Question number 2, which equation has the same solution as the given equation above? Well, we're simply going to start by adding 7 over. So we're going to get that 6x equals 19. Therefore, we can see that D is going to give us the exact same answer. All right, question number 3 here. The graph of the linear function f is shown. What is the y-intercept? Well, the y-intercept is where our x value is 0, so that's going to be right here. Not the greatest screenshot here from this test here, but that's going to have to be at 0, 2. All right, question number 4 here. The graph of the linear function p is shown. Which equation defines p? Well, first thing I can always start off with is, similar to the previous question, looking at my y-intercept. Well, y-intercept is 5, so I can get rid of b and d, and now I'm just dealing with the slope. Now, to be really safe, you could pick 2 points, 0, 5, and we could pick the point 1, 2. But this one is also easy enough that I can see I'm going down 3 over 1. That's going to give me a slope of -3. You'll get the same thing if you do y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1 using those points. All right, question number 5. Of the 50 states in the United States, 12 states are in the Midwest region. What percent of the states in the U.S. are in the Midwest region? Well, this is just going to be Midwest over all states, so 12 over 50. That's going to equal 24%. Question number 6 here. So we're dealing with this equation. So Janice raises chickens. She uses the equation shown to estimate the total daily intake T in pounds for X male and Y female chickens that are between 28 and 35 days old. Using the given equation, Janice estimates that the total daily feed intake for her chickens is 90 pounds. If Janice has 100 male chickens, how many female chickens does she have? Well, we simply know that since it's T in pounds, so we're going to plug our 90 in here. And then we know X is the male, and we have 100 male, so we're simply going to plug in the 100 for where we see the X. So what we're going to get is 90 equals 0.32 times 100 plus 0.29y. This is now going to give us that 90 equals 32 plus 0.29y. And now we are going to get 58 equals 0.29y. So I'm pretty sure this is going to give us b here, but let me just check with the calculator to make sure I'm not making any mistakes here. We're simply just going to divide 58 by 0.29. Yep, and that's going to give us 200, so b is our right answer there. Question 7, going back to the same equation here. Which equation estimates the total weekly, anytime they underline or bold something, be super careful, feed intake W in pounds for the X male and Y female chickens that are between 28 and 35 days old? Well, we know this equation up here is giving our daily intake. So if we're thinking about weekly intake, we have 7 days in a week, so we simply need to be multiplying, not dividing, multiplying the entirety of this equation by 7 because there's 7 days in a week, so it's going to be 7 times as great. The only one that does that is going to be D here. All right, question 8. The function g is defined by g of x equals 4x squared minus 3. For what positive value of x is g of x equal to 13? Well, that simply means we're plugging in 13 here, and we're solving for our x value. So we're going to get 13 equals 4x squared minus 3. This is going to give us 16 equals 4x squared. So now we can simply divide both sides by 4. This is going to give us that 4 equals x squared, and we're going to take the square root. And so that is going to give us positive or negative 2, and we're looking for the positive value, so our answer is simply going to be 2 here. Question 9. In triangle ABC, the measure of angle A, it's always helpful to draw something out for a question like this. So we could say we have A, a very bad A, B, C. The measure of A is 23 degrees. Very bad 3 here, barely struggling with my writing. B is 97 degrees. In triangle DEF, so doesn't really matter exactly how it looks. This is just to help me out as I'm working through. The measure of D is 23. The measure of E is 97. Which the following additional pieces of information is needed to determine whether triangle ABC is similar to triangle DEF. Now, if all of our angles are, or corresponding angles are the same, we're going to have similar triangles here. So what we can see is this is 97, this is 23. That means angle C would equal 60 here, which also means angle F would equal 60. So all of these corresponding angles of D and A, B and E, and C and F are all the same, so we don't need any additional information to be able to identify that these are similar triangles. Only tricky part here is we just have to simply solve for that missing angle in both of the triangles to make sure it's the same. Question 10. Which of the following linear equations is the most appropriate model for the data shown in the scatter plot? Now, this is really just testing you on lines of best fit, which basically just means you're just going to take a line and you're going to draw it pretty much kind of like right approximately down the middle. When you get these questions, there's only going to be one answer that could possibly be close here. So we can very quickly eliminate C and D because those would give us negative y-intercepts. And then with A and B, we both have positive y-intercepts, but B would be giving us a positive slope. And we very clearly have a negative slope, so we can tell that A must be our right answer. With all these questions, make sure you're using the answer choices. You don't have to solve everything on your own. There's not always a perfect answer for these. Question 11, the current density in a wire is defined as the current in milliamperes. I don't think I said that right. Milliamperes flowing through the wire divided by the cross-sectional area of the wire in square millimeters. So what we basically know is we're doing our milliamperes over the cross-sectional area of the wire. What is the current density in milliamperes per square millimeter in a copper wire with a, and I think I messed this part up, so we'll finish this and then I'll read back through the first sentence. What is the current density in milliamperes per square millimeter in a copper wire with a cross-sectional area of 6 square millimeters with a current of 15 that flows through the wire? So the current density is defined as the current, so it's the current divided by our cross-sectional area. So all we're doing here is we have a current of 15, we have a cross-sectional area of 6, so we're simply doing 15 over 6, which is going to give us 2.5. Question 12, what is the radius of the circle in the xy plane with this equation? Well, this is going to be our x-coordinate of the center, y-coordinate of the center. This is our radius squared, so we're simply taking the square root of 64, which is 8, to find our radius. Question 13, if 6 over x plus 1 equals 3, what is the value of x plus 1? Well, what I can simply do is anytime I have fractions, it's always really helpful just to start by cross multiplying because a lot of students just get tripped up with fractions. So what I can have here is 6 equals 3 times x plus 1. Well, because I'm solving for x plus 1, now I can simply divide both sides by 3 to figure out what x plus 1 equals. And so that's just going to give me that 2 equals x plus 1. So I can see that C is my correct answer there. Question 14. Fahari kicks a ball on the ground into the air. 1 second after being kicked, the ball reaches its maximum height of 16 feet above the ground. So what this just told me is this told me the vertex coordinates. My vertex coordinates are 1, 16. In 2 seconds after being kicked, the ball is back on the ground. So another point I have is simply 2, 0. Quadratic function models the height h of t in feet of the ball t seconds after Fahari kicks it. Which equation defines this relationship? Well, there's 2 ways we could approach this question. One is, if we know our vertex form of a parabola, we can right off the bat tell that B is our correct answer. But anytime you're feeling stuck on questions like this, you can always start by simply just basically plugging in values as we go through. So if I plugged the point 1 in for t, my output needs to be 16. And well, 1 minus 1 equals 0, 0 squared equals 0, negative 16 times 0 equals 0, but we're adding that 16, so we get that 16 equals 16. I could check the point 2 comma 0 as well. And so if I plug that in, what I'm looking for is now my output has to be 0 when my input or t value is 2. 2 minus 1 equals 1. 1 squared equals 1. Negative 16 times 1 equals negative 16. Plus 16 equals 0. So this gives me the correct output of 2 comma 0. That is the way you can always deal with these questions, by plugging points in if you're a little bit stuck on the more technical way or conceptual way of looking at it and identifying your right answer. Question 15 here. The scatter plot shows the relationship between two variables x and y. A line of best fit is also shown. For how many of the data points is the actual y value at least one greater than the y value predicted? So what this is asking us, and I'm going to have to kind of zoom in here a little bit, is for how many of these values that are greater than the predicted value, your predicted value lies on the line of best fit, are more than one above the line of best fit. So this one here, a little bit tricky, but it looks like at the point 5, our predicted value is a little bit under 5, and our actual value is a touch above 6. So that's going to give us one value that's more than one greater. And this one is clearly more than one greater than the predicted value. So we're going to have two values that are at least one greater than the y value predicted. So you can see that B is going to be our correct answer here. I'm sure it was a little bit clearer on test day than the kind of picture I took from the questions here. Question 16, a 3,000 piece rectangular jigsaw puzzle has 216 edge pieces and the rest are inside pieces. The equation 48r plus 216 equals 3,000 describes the situation where r represents the number of rows that contain the inside pieces. Which of the following is the best interpretation of 48r in this context? Well, we know we have 3,000 pieces in total. 216 of them are edge pieces. Therefore, all of the inside pieces are going to have to be made up by this 48r, and r is just going to be the number of rows. So there's not 48r total pieces. There's not 48r pieces in each row, because those edge pieces are going to include some of those pieces in a row. Not 48r edge pieces. This just has to be all of our inside pieces, so we can see that D must be our right answer. Question 17, which ordered pair is a solution to the given system of inequalities in the xy plane? Well, the easiest way you can always approach these questions is just take your different answer choices and plug them in and see if it's true for both equations here. So what I see is y is going to have to be less than this side of my equation. So if I'm looking at my answer choices here, the only way I'm going to get a y value that is less for both of these most likely is going to be including a negative value. So I'm just going to start by checking those. If we guess wrong, we just get to check all 4 points here. But we'll just start with A here. So if we plug negative 2 in, that's going to give us 6 plus 1, which is going to give us 7. And then our y value is going to be 3. Well, 3 is not less than 7. That's not true. So I can already just go ahead and I can eliminate A. So I'm going to jump to D and I'll get to see if this is right, or maybe I judged wrong and it could be one of B or C. So here we'll plug in negative 1 and 1 for y. Well, this is going to give us y is less than negative 3 times negative 1 is 3 plus 1. That's going to give us y is less than 4. That's true there. Now we'll go down to our bottom equation. So this is going to give us that 1 is less than or equal to negative 1 half times negative 1 just gives us 1 half, plus 1 gives us 3 halves or 1.5. Well, 1 is less than or equal to 1.5, so this is also true. So I can spot that D is my right answer. This is the easiest way of always dealing with these questions. And on test day, you don't always need to do it the really challenging way. You often can just solve it the simplest way. All right, question 18 here. This is going to be a little confusing with how this table is. We'll figure this out. The table shows the results of a poll that was used to determine support for a county proposal. The results are categorized by county and opinion. If one person who responded to the poll is selected at random, which of the following statements results in the greatest value? So these are going to have to be my for values. These are going to have to be my against values. So, yeah, this is very confusing how they release this here. So these are going to have to be all of my for values. All the red ones are going to have to be my against values. These are all going to give me my undecided values. And the last part is for all of these are going to give me my total values. So definitely was way cleaner on test day, but we should be able to figure this out now. So the probability that the person is undecided given that the person is from County 1. Well, given that the person is from County 1 means we'd only be able to use the County 1 group. So we'd only be able to use the County 1 group. And so that would be 95 over 1,601. The probability that a person is undecided given that the person is from County 2. Well, exact same thing here, but now we're just going to use the County 2 numbers. So this is going to be 91 over 1,144. Now C, the probability that a person is from County 1 given that person is undecided. So now all we're allowed to focus on here is just using the undecided part of the table. And so the probability the person is from County 1 given that the person is undecided, well, that's going to be, for this one here, this is going to be 95 over 186. The amount of undecided people from County 1 out of all undecided people. In D, the probability that a person is from County 2 given that the person is undecided, so almost exact same thing here, but this one is now simply going to be 91 over 186. So A and B are going to be way, way smaller, and this is going to be greater than this, so we can see that C must be our correct answer there. All right, question 19 here. The bar graph shows the number of commercials Albert saw each day that he watched television last week. For these 5 days, how much greater is the mean number of commercials per day than the median number of commercials per day? Well, median is going to be when ordered from smallest to largest. So I'll kind of order these from smallest to largest. So it would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Well, out of a list of 5, our median is going to be our middle value, which is our third value. So our median here is going to equal 8. Now, if we're looking to solve our mean, we're going to have to add up the total of all of these and divide by 5. So we're going to have 16 plus 14 plus 8 plus 7 plus 5. And that should equal 50, and 50 over 5 is going to equal 10. So our mean is going to equal 10. Our median is going to equal 8. So that's going to give us that the mean is 2 greater than the median. So we can tell that A is our correct answer there. And number 20, that was 19. A county school board in a certain state is proposing a start time of 7:30 a.m. for all high schools in the county. A sample of 100 high school students was selected at random from all high school students in the county. The selected students were asked whether they approved of the proposed change in the school start time, and 70 students responded that they did not approve of the proposed change. Which of the following is the largest population to which the results of the survey can be generalized? Well, we can only generalize them based off of what we sampled. And so since we sampled all the high schools in that county, we can only basically apply those results to students in that county. It's not just the students who responded or just the students who were surveyed. The reason we always take a sample is because from that sample, we can kind of extrapolate, or we can take a good generalized idea of what the value is going to be for all the people that sample represents. So it's going to be all those high school students in that county. We didn't sample from across the state, so we can't do D. That's why C is our correct answer there. Question 21. The bar graph shown summarizes the total number of businesses in thousands and the total number of tourism-related businesses in thousands in Iceland for each of 7 years. Tourism-related businesses employed 13.5 thousand people in Iceland in 2009. Which of the following is the closest to the mean number of employees per tourism-related business in Iceland in 2009? Well, in 2009 here we had 0.58 thousands. You always have to be really careful with our units. So that's going to be the same as we had 580 businesses. And we had 13,000, that is not a 3, we had 13,500 people, and we're going to be averaging them out between all of those businesses there. So I think this is going to be 23, but I'm going to check my calculator here so I don't mess anything up here. Yep, that's going to be right about 23, so we can see that C is our correct answer there. All right, question 22. The bar graph shown summarizes the total number of businesses in thousands and the total number of tourism-related businesses in thousands. Oh, yeah, exact same thing. In 2008, what percentage of the total businesses in Iceland were tourism-related? Well, so 2008 is where we're looking. So we are going to have 2,600 total businesses, and we're going to have 520, because remember this is 0.52 thousands. So what we're looking for is the percentage of tourism out of total. So we're simply looking for 520 out of 2,600 here. And I think that should be 2%. But once again, I'm going to check the calculator here. This is the calculator section, so you get to use it. That's 20%. I missed a zero as I was thinking through that there. So our correct answer there is going to be B. That's why it's always good to check your calculator when you're dealing with these questions. Now for 23 here. The heat capacity of a substance is the amount of energy in joules required to raise the temperature of 1 gram of substance by 1 degree Celsius. The heat capacity of water is approximately 4.2 joules per gram times your Celsius. Approximately how much energy in joules is required to raise the temperature of 1 gram of water from 22 Celsius to 30 Celsius? Well, we're saying the heat capacity is the amount of energy required to raise the temperature by 1 degree. Okay, so it takes 4.2 joules to raise it 1 degree per gram. So what we're simply looking for is we're looking for how much energy does it take to increase by 8 degrees. So what we're simply looking for here is 8 times 4.2, which is going to give us 34 here. That's one I don't need to check with the calculator. Question 24 here. The given equation models the value of an antique dresser t years after its restoration, where 0 is less than or equal to t is less than or equal to 5. Which of the following equations best models the value of the dresser m months after its restoration, where 0 is less than m is less than 60? Well, this part sometimes can throw students off, but what this is just saying, both of these are just saying it's within a 5-year period, right? This is 5 years. This is also 5 years expressed in months. So after, what we can think about is after 1 year, we're going to have increased by 5%. So if we're looking at this, what we can think about is 1 year is equal to 12 months. So if I'm looking at each of these answer choices, one way I can approach this that works for a lot of students I work with is you can simply try to basically fact check what is true given this top equation in each of these answer choices. And what we know is, well, if I plug 1 in for t up here, our output is going to be a 5% increase. So our output would have to be, even if we want to go all the way to a number, it's going to have to be 1,050. So I could approach each of these answer choices by thinking through the same thing. 1 year is equal to 12 months. So I can now approach each of these answer choices by saying, if I put 12 in for m, I should be getting the exact same output of 1,050. And what I can see here is C is going to do the exact same thing, because after 12 months, I'm simply going to get a 5% increase. The exact same way up here, after 1 year, which is the same as 12 months, I get a 5% increase, and that's how I can see that C is my right answer there. You can also think about this a little bit in terms of unit conversion, but if you're not really comfortable with exponential growth and decay, sometimes that can get a little bit tricky for students. There's always tons of different ways you can approach these questions. Question 25, how many distinct real solutions does the given equation have? Well, with these, one thing I always want to kind of think about with this is these are often asking you about your discriminant rules, which is your b squared minus 4ac. And if it equals 0, that means you get one solution. If it's greater than 0, that's 2. If it's less than 0, it's going to give you no real, or you're going to get complex solutions. But some of these you also can just kind of factor through, FOIL, simplifying, you sometimes can get there. So we'll start by that way, but we can always lean back on our discriminant rules if we end up with like a actual quadratic at the end, an actual polynomial that might be difficult to spot. But I'm going to go ahead, I'm just going to expand and distribute all of this. Well, x minus 5 squared is going to be the same as x squared minus 10x plus 25. And now we're going to get plus 10 times x, which is going to give us 10x, plus 10 times negative 5, which is going to give me negative 50, plus 25 is all going to equal 0. Well, my negative 10x and my positive 10x are going to cancel out. I'm going to get a positive 50 and a negative 50. So all I'm going to be left with is that x squared equals 0. So this means my only real solution is going to be the value of 0. So I'm simply going to get exactly one real solution, so I can see that b is my right answer. I could use the b squared minus 4ac. I don't have a b value. I don't have a c value. So my a value is 1, but what I'm simply going to end up with is 0 squared minus 4 times 1 times 0. So I'm simply going to get 0 equals 0. I'm going to have 0 is my answer, so I'm going to get one real solution. That's how I could think of it in terms of my discriminant rules. 26 here. One of the two equations in a linear system is given. The system has exactly one solution. Which equation could be the other equation in the system? Well, anytime the SAT asks about having one solution, it's often really similar to the very classic question where you're dealing with no and infinite solutions. So if I want to have exactly one solution, I cannot have no solutions and I cannot have infinite solutions. Now, no solutions is going to be the same slope and a different y-intercept, and infinite solutions is going to be the exact same line. They're going to have the same slope, the same intercept. Now, one way, especially if you're not quite as comfortable with some of these and looking at the answer choices and kind of picking up the patterns, is you could go through and you could express this in y equals mx plus b form, which is often kind of like the safer way you can deal with this. So this will end up giving us y equals 4x minus 3. So what we're now looking for is we cannot have a slope of 4 because we're going to have no solutions or infinite solutions, right? If we also have an intercept of -3, we're going to get infinite solutions here. But what I can also kind of spot looking at this is going to have the exact same slope. This is also going to have the exact same slope. And a as well is going to have the same slope. Because when I put this over, I'm going to get y equals 4x plus 6. And once again, y equals 4x. So same slope. As we're going through, we're going to get the exact same thing here because we'll get negative y equals negative 4x plus 3. This is just going to give us y equals 4x minus 3. So this would give us infinite solutions with our equation here. And here, we're going to get that same slope of 4x. But with c, we're going to get a slope of negative 4x. So if we're looking for one solution, we simply just need to have a different slope as we're going through. That's our one constraint we're dealing with here when we're dealing with two lines. So c has to be our correct answer there. Question 27. A drawing of an object has a scale where a length of 4 inches on the drawing represents an actual length of 9 feet. The actual length of the object is 12 y feet. Which expression represents the length in inches of the object in the drawing? All right, this is the first pretty tricky question we've seen here. Now, one thing I want to use, though, is I want to use this first statement here. So 4 inches equals 9 feet. So that means this is going to kind of give me my constant, or you can think of kind of your conversion factor. Well, I'm going to express all of this in terms of inches here. So that could tell me, well, if I have 4 inches, it's going to be the same as 108 feet on the actual, 108 inches, on the actual length. And I simply got that by doing 9 times 12. So what I can think about now is, well, this is going to be proportional to x, as this is what I'm looking for, is the length in inches of the drawing over 12y times 12. And now this is probably the part that most people missed on the test. This is giving me my amount of feet, but I have expressed this in terms of inches. So 12y feet is going to be the same as 12y times 12 if I want to express it in inches here. Now, one other thing you could do is you could use a really helpful test trick, which we call substitution, which is just plugging a value in. You could simply say, let's make y2, and we could still work through the answer choice, and then when we plug y2 in for y in each answer, we get to basically play a matching game. And I'll kind of walk back through that as well after I go through this. But here what we'll get is 4 over 108 equals x over 144y. And so 4 over 108 is going to simplify down to 1 over 27 is going to equal x over 144y. So now I'm going to go ahead and cross multiply. So what I'm going to get is 144y equals 27x, and I'm solving for x here. That's going to be representative of all these answers are going to be basically in x equals forms for how I've set this up. So now I'm going to get 144y over 27 equals x. Now each of these I can divide 9 out of. This is going to give me 16y over 3 equals x. So we'll see if I did this right. Yep, there we go. So C is going to be our correct answer there. Now, that's definitely tricky. This is our first really kind of tricky, challenging question. This is probably one of the questions that tripped up most students on the test here. Now, another way you can approach these, because often these can feel really tricky when you have this kind of weird unit conversion stuff happening, is I said, like, let's just say that y is 2 feet. So if we're saying that y equals 2 feet, y equals 2, excuse me, so that would give us, basically, we'll have our same 4 over 108 equals x over, well, 12 times 2 is going to be 2. So what we're going to get is we're going to get this over 24 times 12. And now what you'll notice here is from this part of the equation, if you cross multiply and you solve for x, when you plug 2 back in for this answer choice, you're going to get the exact same value you get when you solve for x here. So this is how you can plug numbers in, and the questions can often start to feel a lot easier than doing it the really technical way, which often can feel really overwhelming, and often it's really easy to get super stuck on these and have no idea where to go. So it gives you a really good kind of backup way of dealing with these questions. All right, question 28 here. The dot plots shown each represent a data set. Which of the following statements best compares the means and the standard deviations of the two data sets? So if I want to solve for the mean, I'm going to have to add up all of these values and divide by the total number of values. So I can do that, but I want to see if there's a way I can get to my answer first without having to do that, because I like to keep my life as easy as possible. So we'll look at our answer choices. The means are equal. The means are equal. The mean of data set A is less than the mean of data set B. The mean of data set A is greater than the mean of data set B. So I could definitely go through and solve that. But let's see if we have any really different statements on standard deviation. The standard deviation of data set A is less than the standard deviation of data set B. Standard deviation of data set A is greater than B, equal. So what I can actually tell here is the standard deviation of data set A is going to be less than the standard deviation of data set B, because standard deviation is all about, in really simplistic terms for the SAT, it's about the spread of the values. And we have more values concentrated in a smaller range here than we do here. So we are going to have a smaller standard deviation here than we are in B, because A is the only answer choice that gives me that option. I can tell that A must be correct. If you go through and you solve for the means, they're going to be equal here. But we'll move on to the next question here. The expression 0.7x represents the result of decreasing a positive quantity x by what percent? The SAT loves these percent increase decrease questions, and they're really easy once you know how to handle them. Anytime you're dealing with percent increases or decreases, it's always 1 plus or minus the percent expressed as a decimal. So let's say we were looking for a 30% increase. This would be the same as 1 plus 0.3, which would equal 1.3. Now, if we're looking for a 30% decrease, it would be the same as 1 minus 0.3, which is going to give us 0.7. So this 0.7 is always the distance away from 1, which is going to tell you how much you've increased or decreased. That's going to show us a 30% decrease. So that's how we can see that B is correct. A is the really common wrong answer that everybody gets tripped up by on these. All right, question 30 here. The graph of y equals f of x plus 1, so it's going to be a shift up 1 of our f of x here. Which equation defines the function f? So what I always like to do with these is I like to just basically start by plugging in some really easy points. And here we just get 2 easy points I could pick. One is going to be when x equals 0, we're going to see an output, and when x equals 1, we're going to see an output. And so what I can see here is, since this is f of x plus 1, f of x is going to be shifted down 1. So whichever one of these answer choices, when I plug 0 in, it gives me 1. When I plug 1 in, it gives me 3, is going to give me my right answer. Now, if we look at C and D, we can eliminate both of those, because anything to the 0 power equals 1, and well, 1 plus 1 equals 2. which does not equal the one we're looking for, and 1 plus 2 equals 3, which does not equal the one we're looking for. So we get rid of both of those. Now, with both a and b, our first point is going to work, because if we plug 0 in for x, anything to the 0 power equals 1. So both a and b are going to give us a y value, or our output, of 1. So now we get to kind of figure out our make or break part with our second one. Well, 2 to the first and 3 to the first. Well, 2 to the first equals 2. That does not equal 3, but 3 to the first equals 3. So B is going to have to be our correct answer there. Almost all of these graphing questions, as you've started to see from the other ones, plug values in, and these get really, really easy for you to deal with. Question 31. Over a period of 1 year, 2 points on opposite sides of a mid-ocean ridge moved a distance of 4 centimeters farther apart. What is the distance in meters? Well, if we want to do this kind of the really technical way here, we can say that 4 centimeters, if we want to convert it to meters, is going to be the same as 1 meter over 100 centimeters, and then we're going to have it expressed in meters. This also is doing the exact same thing as 4 over 100, which is just the same as 0.04. So that's going to be, this is going to be our answer there, 0.04. All right, question 32. If 7x minus 3 equals 2x minus 3, what is the value of x minus 3? Well, I'm just going to distribute this out, solve for x, then I can solve for x minus 3. Always circle statements like this. There are a few of these on the no calculator section. If you're ever for solving for something that's not just x, put a big circle on the page. It's going to save you just a silly mistake. All right, so 7 times x minus 3 is going to give us 7x minus 21 equals 2x minus 6. So this is going to give us 5x equals 15. So x equals 3. Well, therefore, 3 minus 3 is going to equal 0. So 0 is going to be our correct answer here. 33. One of the factors of 2x cubed plus 14x squared plus 24x is x plus b, where b is a positive constant. What is one possible value of b? Well, this isn't going to be so fun to factor, but what I can do is I can pull an x out of all of these terms, and the rest of the question is going to start getting a lot more approachable for me. Now, I could, oh, I don't need an x there. I could use the quadratic formula, solve for my solutions, but my factor is going to be, if my solution is -3, my factor is going to be +3, but we'll see if we can just go ahead and factor this out. So this is going to have, we're going to have 2x for one of our terms, we're going to have x for another. We are multiplying to 24, we are adding to 14 here. So this is going to give us 2x plus 6, and this is going to give us x plus 4. Now, this can be simplified down to 2 times x plus 3, and this is just simply x plus 4. Now, the reason I had to do this is because I was looking for x plus b, not a 2x plus b. So my two possible answers here would be 3 or 4. Either of those are going to give me a possible value of b, where b is a positive constant. And we'd still have our x over here. All right, the table shows the distribution of class sizes for 109 classes of a high school. What is the median class size at the high school? Well, there's a really great trick here, also kind of in our book, but if you're ever looking for the median here, you simply add 1 to your total number of items in your list or your group, and you divide by 2. So 109 plus 1 equals 110. 110 divided by 2 equals 55. This is just a trick to help you find your median. So what I'm looking for now is, when ordered from smallest to greatest, where the 55th value falls. So what this is saying is I have 10 classes with 21 students. So that's going to give me the first 10 items in the list. I have 13 classes with 22 students. So at this point, I'm up to 23. Now here, I have 30 classes with 23 students. This is going to get me all the way up to 53. We're not quite yet at our 55, but we have 24 classes with 36 students. So this group is going to be where our 55th value falls, because this is going to get us all the way up to 89. So this is going to contain classes 54 through 89 when ordered from smallest to largest. So our median class size, therefore, is going to be 24, because our classes, if we wrote them all out in order from smallest to largest, our first 10 would be a class size of 21. Then we'd have 11 through 23 would give us a class size of 22. 24 to 53 would give us a class size of 23. And then 54 through 89 would give us a class size of 24. So our median class size is 24. Really tricky question, but if you know this little trick, it gets a lot more approachable. Otherwise, I have heard of some students literally writing these out that many times on the test, and it's hard to do that due to time, and it's also really easy to make a mistake as you're going through. All right, question 35. When Arvin walks home from class, he burns 4.2 calories per minute. And when he rides his bike from home to class, he burns 5.1 calories per minute. If Arvin spent a total of 2 hours walking and bicycling from home to class in a week and burned a total of 531 calories, how many minutes did he spend walking? Well, almost any time you see word problems on the test, it's usually a system of equations, and that's what we're seeing here. So what we're going to say here is x is going to be our walking and y is going to be our biking. Now, because this is already in calories per minute, I'm going to take my 2 hours and I'm going to convert it to minutes. So what I can do is my first equation is going to give us our quantity of time spent walking and biking. But what we know is our time spent walking and biking is going to add up to 2 hours or 120 minutes. And now every minute we bike, and I flip that around, every minute we walk, we're going to burn 4.2 calories, and every minute we bike, we're going to burn 5.1 calories, and we're going to burn 531 calories in total. So now we can use stacking elimination, substitution, any of our systems of equations solving techniques to work through this. So I'm just going to use substitution here. So I can re-express this as y equals 120 minus x. And now I can take my 120 minus x and I can plug it in here. So I'm going to get 4.2x plus 5.1 times 120 minus x equals 531. Now I'm going to get 4.2x plus 5.1. This should give us 612 minus 5.1x equals 531. This is going to give us negative 0.9x equals, my brain apparently is having a moment here. I believe 81. I'm going to check those numbers here just to make sure I didn't mess myself up. So 5.1 times 120 equals 612. There we go. This will be negative 81. 531 minus 612. Yep, cool. All right, so I was all good there. And now we're simply going to divide both sides by 0.09, negative 0.09, and this should give us that x equals 90. Once again, just to be safe, I'll go ahead and divide that. Yep, cool. And so our correct answer here is going to be 90. Definitely a challenging question there, though. All right. Question 36. In the circle shown, so I'll end up redrawing this so we can hopefully follow along a little bit here. So I'll try to draw a decent little circle here. Cool. All right. In the circle shown, point O is the center and diameter UX bisects WY at point Z. The radius of the circle is 6 and XZ is 2. If WZ equals root x, what is the value of x? So what we have here is we have our center, which is O, and we have a point over here, which is W, a point over here, which is Y. We've got a point up here, which is X. So I'm going to go ahead and start kind of drawing some lines here. So it's definitely not going to be perfect. And then we'll give ourselves some points here. So we're going to have a straight line from, we'll see if I can get a straight line here. We'll try one last time, or we'll give up on that. There we go. All right, so we have a straight line there, which should be creating a 90-degree angle. I definitely didn't draw this perfectly, so it doesn't. And then, almost any time I'm solving for a distance, which is what I'm doing here, I can always use triangles to help me solve. So what I know is from O to W is going to be 6. From O to Y is also going to be 6 here. Now x to z, and this is going to be my point z here, is going to be 2. And O to x is going to equal 6 because that's another radius. So this is going to equal 4. So if I'm looking for WZ is root x, what is the value of x? Well, all I actually have here now, and I can draw it back out, is I'm simply just solving for the length of a triangle. So I can also just simply draw this out. It doesn't have to be to scale. It's just letting me kind of see what's happening. Well, this is going to be 6. So we could say that this is O, this is W, this is Z. We know that this is 4. So we're just solving for WZ. So we're simply doing, and we'll say this is x is what we're solving for here. We're doing 4 squared plus x squared equals 6 squared. So that's going to give us that 16 plus, not 16x, 16 plus x squared equals 36. That means that x squared is going to equal 20. Therefore, x is going to equal the square root of 20. I want to make sure if that's what we were just solving for. Yep, we were looking for WZ is equal to the square root of x. So WZ, which I put in as x, is equal to the square root of 20. So our correct answer here is going to be 20. Definitely a challenging question. Big takeaway from this question, though, is anytime you're looking to solve for distances, especially when you get some of these circles, look to use your radius, look to create triangles. Almost every distance question on the test starts to involve triangles, often 30, 60, 90, or 45, 45, 90 triangles. All right, question 37 here. All right, at a certain location in the Columbia River, the velocity of water flow at different depths was measured. The scatter plot shown gives 11 measurements of the velocity in feet per second at various depths. According to the line of best fit, oh, this is a really easy one. What is the predicted velocity at a depth of 4? Well, all we're doing here is we're tracing up from, if I can trace up from 4, we're just going up from 4 and seeing where it's intersecting the line of best fit. That's going to be our predicted value. So our answer is simply going to be 1.2, or you could fill in 6/5. All right, question 38. Same figure, so I'm going to skip reading the text. For what fraction of the data points in the scatter plot is the velocity of the water flow predicted greater than the measured? So all I'm looking for here is how many of these data points are under our predicted value, which is our line of best fit. So that's going to be our predicted value. So we're going to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We have 11 measurements in total. So our answer is simply going to be 5/11. You could also do the decimal, and that would give you your right answer. So I really hope this helped a lot of you guys out who are taking the May test. If this did, please like and subscribe for more content we'll be dropping. And if you want to check out some of our resources, including our math book, as well as some free resources on our website, I've popped some links in below.